First story. I revealed to my son that I'm not his aunt, and that his cousins are his step-siblings after 14 years. But my entitled son refused to call me mum, claimed I'm his aunt, and then denied taking his step-sibling on his vacation. So my new husband punished my son and demanded that he respect his mum. But my ungrateful son involved the police in family matters. When I was 21, I had my son Julian with my then boyfriend. We were young, impulsive, and, honestly, not in a place to raise a child. My boyfriend Julian's father and I made the difficult decision to let my older brother Rob and his wife Kate adopt him. It wasn't an easy choice, but they were already trying to start a family, and they loved him from the moment he was born. The idea was that I would still be part of his life as his aunt, and when the time felt right, maybe I'd step into more of a motherly role. I always thought I'd have more time, that I'd get my life together, and one day, when I was stable and ready, I could come back into Julian's life in a real way. But time passed, and things didn't happen like I expected. Julian grew up calling me aunt, and I was okay with that for a long time. I was around, but not like a parent, more like the fun relative who visited, brought gifts, and stayed in the background. Then his dad, my ex, was diagnosed with cancer when Julian was around 12. I dropped everything to help him through treatment. He didn't make it. That year was one of the hardest of my life, and when it was over, I realized how much time I'd lost with Julian. So when he turned 14, Rob, Kate, and I decided to finally tell him the truth, that I was actually his biological mother. I cried before, during, and after that conversation. I was nervous, but part of me hoped he'd be curious, maybe even happy. Instead, he looked at me and said, flat out, "Nothing's changed. You're still just my aunt." And then he left the room. That absolutely crushed me. I understand it must have been a shock for him, and I tried to tell myself to be patient. But his lack of emotion and words stuck with me like I was nothing. Like the years I spent aching with guilt. The way I envied Rob and Kate for getting to raise him, none of it mattered. I cried in my car the whole way home that day. My husband Eric has always been supportive, but he took that moment personally. He felt Julian was cruel to me. He never really got over it, if I'm being honest. Fast forward a few years, and Eric and I now have 2 kids, 13 and 11. They've met Julian several times. I tried to foster a sibling bond between them, even if Julian wasn't exactly warm. He's polite but distant. My kids adore him. They think he's cool and want to hang out with him, but he keeps a wall up. Last month, I found out through my brother that he was taking Julian and their younger adopted kids. They adopted again a few years ago on a weekend trip. I asked if he could bring my kids too. I thought it would be a nice chance for them all to bond. Rob just said, "No, I want to do something with just my kids." I asked again, confused, and he said, "Laura, your kids aren't his siblings. I don't mean that to be cruel, but this trip is for us." Then he hung up. I was stunned. I called Eric and told him what Rob said. He was livid. He said Rob was being disrespectful, and that Julian clearly had something against us and our family. So we decided to confront Julian directly. We met him the next day at Rob's place. Kate was there too, quietly hovering. Julian sat on the couch like he couldn't care less we were there. That attitude alone made Eric furious. He asked Julian, "What's your problem with your siblings? And why do you treat your mother like she's nothing to you?" Julian blinked at him and said, "I don't have a problem. They're good kids. They're just not my siblings." Eric raised his voice, saying, "That doesn't even make sense. How can you say you don't hate them, but still refuse to acknowledge them as your family?" Julian calmly replied, "Because they're not. I have siblings, but they're the kids my parents are raising. And you're right, I don't hate them. I just don't know them like that." He didn't even look at me when he said, "Your kids." Then he turned to me and added, "And you're still my aunt." That broke me again. I didn't say anything. I just sat there while Eric argued with him. I kept waiting for Rob or Kate to jump in to defend me, but instead Rob stepped in to shut it all down. He told us this had gone far enough and that we needed to leave. Eric refused at first. He said, "This isn't over. Julian needs to stop acting like a stranger to his own mother." But Rob wasn't having it. He told us to go, or he'd make us go. I didn't want to escalate, so I pulled Eric out and we left. I cried the entire ride home. Eric was fuming, saying that he didn't care what anyone else said, he wasn't going to let Julian disrespect me like this. But the next day, I got a call from my mother. She told me flat out that I needed to get off my high horse, that I wasn't Julian's mom, and that I should stop trying to force a connection that wasn't there. It felt like everyone was just done with me. Like I'm the only one trying to fix something that I didn't break. A few days passed. Eric stewed in silence. I tried to move on and distract myself with our kids, but I could feel something building. Then one afternoon, Julian came by to pick something up from Rob's. I think he left some gear there or something. Eric saw him and told him to come inside, that they needed to talk man to man. I don't know exactly what Eric said at first, but I walked in and heard him telling Julian that he was being cold and heartless, that it was disgusting how he treated the woman who gave birth to him. Julian told him he wasn't going to sit there and be insulted in someone else's home and got up to leave. And Eric, this shocked me, blocked the door and said, "You're not going anywhere until we get some respect. You're going to sit down and finally listen." Julian looked stunned. So was I. He asked, "Are you serious right now?" And Eric said, "Dead serious." He was physically blocking the door, daring Julian to try and get by. That moment scared me. It wasn't violent, but it was tense. Julian just stood there with this dead stare, like he was completely done with all of us. That was the moment I realized how far things had gone. Julian didn't say anything for a solid minute. Just stared at Eric, then looked at me. Not with anger, with disgust, like we were strangers who ambushed him on the street. Then he pulled out his phone and texted someone. Eric told him, "Don't even try it. You owe her this conversation. You owe her the truth." Julian said, "I owe nothing to people who hold me hostage." I told Eric to step back. He didn't. He kept pressing Julian about why he hated me, about how unfair he was being to my kids, about how he could walk around like none of this mattered. Julian finally snapped. He said, "You're not my father. You married my aunt. That's it. This isn't your fight." Eric barked back, "You're damn right I'm not your father. Because a father would have raised you better than this." It went silent. 10 minutes later, Rob showed up. Julian had texted him. He knocked once and then walked right in. He saw the scene, saw Eric blocking the front door, saw me just standing there with tears in my eyes, and he went straight to Julian. He just said, "Let's go." Julian walked past Eric without saying a word. Rob looked at Eric and said, "This was out of line. If you were anyone else, you'd be in handcuffs right now." And then they left. I haven't heard from Rob since. Kate sent me one text. "You pushed too far. Leave him alone." Eric doesn't think we did anything wrong. He still says Julian needed to hear the truth, that he's not a victim, that he's been cruel to the woman who brought him into this world, and that it's time he acknowledged our kids as his siblings, not strangers. But the damage is done. Julian hasn't spoken to me. He's blocked both me and Eric. I doubt I'll see him again unless it's through Rob. I still believe I had the right to try. He is my son. I didn't abandon him. I made a choice I thought was right when I was 21. I was told I'd still be in his life. I was told I could come back when I was ready. No one said he'd shut me out completely. I get that Rob and Kate are the ones who raised him. I'm not trying to erase that. But why does that mean I have to erase myself? Why is everyone acting like I'm just some stranger who barged into his life? My kids ask about Julian. They think they did something wrong. They want to know why their brother won't talk to them. I don't have an answer for them. I've been painted as delusional for wanting a relationship with my own son. I've been told I don't deserve one. Even my own mother thinks I should give up. Eric says we're not the monsters my family makes us out to be. He says Julian needs time, and that eventually he'll come around. But I'm starting to wonder if he ever will, or if he ever intended to. I want to be in his life. I want him to see my kids as his siblings. I want to be able to say I did everything I could to fix what I couldn't control back then. But I'm exhausted. And now I'm being told I crossed a line. Was I wrong to push this hard? Was Eric wrong to keep him from leaving? I need advice. Comments. Comment 1. YTA. And you need to hear this from a fellow mom. Biology doesn't mean SHT after 14 years of silence. You didn't raise that boy. Rob and Kate did. They earned the title of parents. You showing up when he's a teenager and expecting him to reshuffle his emotional world and call you mum is selfish. You keep calling it rejection. But from where I'm standing, Julian has been unbelievably patient. He didn't blow up, didn't curse you out, didn't ghost you. He just calmly said, "You're my aunt." That's his boundary. You crying every time he enforces it doesn't make him the bad guy. And Eric, keeping that kid from leaving the house. That's insane. That's borderline illegal. If Rob hadn't shown up fast, This whole situation could have escalated into a restraining order. Also, stop dragging your kids into this. They're 11 and 13 and they didn't do anything wrong. But they're not Julian's siblings just because you want them to be. That's not how relationships work. This isn't a sitcom. You need to back off. Completely. If he ever wants to reconnect, let him make that call. Until then, stay in your lane. Comment 2. I'm a family lawyer. You're not just a you're also lucky this didn't end with a police report. Julian is 19. That means he's a legal adult. Your husband physically preventing a legal adult from leaving a property. That can be classified as unlawful restraint. If Rob had pressed charges, he'd have a solid case. On a deeper level, you're refusing to accept the legal reality that you voluntarily relinquished parental rights. Rob and Kate are his parents. They are legally and emotionally his guardians, and Julian's reaction to your intrusion is actually mature. He never denied facts, he denied your emotional expectations. That's a big difference. You also violated boundaries. You confronted him repeatedly, tried to force an emotional narrative, and then escalated the situation physically via your husband. And now you're positioning yourself as the victim. My advice: take a step back. Apologize sincerely, and then leave him alone. Update. I didn't think I'd be back here, but everything has gotten worse since my last post. I'm writing this because I need to process what's happened, not because I expect sympathy. After the incident where Eric blocked Julian from leaving, I thought it would just blow over. I honestly believed Rob would cool off after a few days, and that Julian would text me, maybe angry, but at least willing to talk. That didn't happen. Instead, 3 days later, 2 police officers came to our house. They weren't aggressive, but it was very clear why they were there. Rob had filed a report against Eric for unlawful restraint. They questioned us separately. They said Julian told Rob, right after leaving, that Eric had physically blocked him from exiting the house and said, "You're not going anywhere until you show respect." That's exactly what Eric said. They also mentioned that Julian told them he felt unsafe. Eric didn't get arrested, but they made it clear this was a criminal complaint. They said that because Julian is a legal adult, preventing him from leaving can qualify as unlawful restraint under our state's law. They took an official statement from Eric and from me. They gave Eric a notice that if he tried to contact Julian directly again, or if something similar happened, he could be charged. They also said Rob could pursue a restraining order if he wanted to. I was humiliated. Our kids saw the police at the door. Our neighbors saw. Eric was red in the face, but trying to stay calm. As soon as they left, he started pacing and swearing, calling Rob a snake and a backstabbing coward for involving the police. I told him he went too far with Julian, that blocking him was crossing a line. Eric said he didn't lay a hand on the kid, and that it was all blown out of proportion. That night, Julian blocked me on everything. The only thing I've heard about him since is through Rob or Kate. Rob texted me once saying, "We're done. Do not contact Julian again." That was it. Then my mill called. She'd heard about the police showing up, my mother told her, and apparently Rob had told some extended family too. She screamed at me over the phone. Said she couldn't believe what I'd allowed Eric to do. Said I was mentally unstable for trying to reclaim a son I gave away. Told me that Julian was never my son, that I was lucky Rob even let me see him growing up, and that I'd ruined whatever chance I had to be in his life. She didn't stop until I hung up. The worst part? My kids overheard some of it. My 13-year-old asked me afterwards, "Why does everyone hate us?" And I didn't know what to say. A few days later, Kate texted me asking to meet in person. She said Rob wasn't coming, just her. We met at a coffee shop. She was polite but cold. She didn't raise her voice once, but what she said cut deeper than anything else so far. She told me, "You were never his mom. Not once. Not for a day. We've been the ones sitting with him at the hospital, at the parent-teacher meetings, and on the nights he cried himself to sleep. You had a chance to be there, and you weren't. I don't hate you, but you're like a ghost of a bad decision. He doesn't need a ghost haunting him. He needs peace." Then she told me that if Eric ever tries to approach Julian again, they will go through with a restraining order and press charges. She said, "Leave him alone. That's the kindest thing you can do for him right now." Then she left. I cried in my car for almost an hour after that. But even while I cried, part of me still thought, I'm his mother. I didn't do this to hurt him. I didn't give him up because I didn't love him. I gave him up because I was 21 and stupid and thought Rob would just hold him for me until I got my life together. That's what I told myself back then, that I'd come back for him. I know how that sounds. I know it doesn't erase the fact that Rob and Kate raised him. But it's hard to just let go. He's my son, my blood. And now he won't even look at me. Eric, meanwhile, is spiraling. He's been Googling parental rights after adoption and printing off articles about biological rights. He's convinced Rob has been turning Julian against me for years, and that Julian will wake up eventually. He's even talked about suing for defamation after the police incident. I've tried telling him this is not how the law works. He doesn't listen. I don't defend what Eric did. Blocking Julian from leaving was wrong. Full stop. It was controlling and intimidating, even if he didn't lay a hand on him. But I also know it came from a place of frustration, and yes, from love. Eric has seen me cry over Julian for years. He wanted to force a breakthrough. He thought if he just made Julian stay and listen, something would click. That's not how people work, but that's what he thought. Now, our family is outcast. My mill won't answer my texts. Rob and Kate have cut us off. Julian is gone. My kids are confused and sad. And Eric is stuck in his obsession, while I'm left sitting in the wreckage of my own choices. I feel regret, real regret, for letting it get this far. But I can't turn off the part of me that still wants Julian to know I love him. Even now, after everything. Even after he blocked me. That's where we're at. Comments. Comment 1. Holy SHT, as an adoptee, this gave me flashbacks. Do you know how traumatizing it is to be 14, find out your aunt is actually your bio mom, and then have her act like you're supposed to suddenly treat her like a mother? You took the nuclear bomb of adoption reveals and then kept pushing. You keep saying you gave him up so you could get your life together. But that's not what Julian experienced. What he experienced was, the people who fed me, loved me, and tucked me in every night are my real parents. Then the person who opted out shows up and wants an emotional payoff she didn't earn. Julian owes you nothing. Not time, not respect, not sibling status for your other kids. He's not poisoned by Rob and Kate, he's holding a boundary. Honestly, he sounds incredibly calm considering how far you've pushed him. If it were me, I'd have gone no contact years ago. And Eric? He's dangerous to Julian's mental health. Even if you want to say, it came from love. Love without respect is just control. Comment 2. Jesus Christ, do you even hear yourself? You and Eric basically kidnapped a 19-year-old in your living room. And then you come here whining about love? That's not love. That's ego and desperation. You gave that boy up, which was probably the right thing at the time. But you don't get to saunter back in 2 decades later and demand he call you mom and treat your kids like his siblings. You didn't earn that. And Eric, he's not some noble protector. He's a grown man bullying a teenager because his wife's feelings are hurt. He's lucky as hell he's not sitting with an arraignment notice right now. You're lucky CPS isn't sniffing around your actual kids after cops show up at your house. Stop dressing this up as a family dispute or a misunderstanding born from love. It was a power move. It blew up in your face, and now you're radioactive to everyone involved. Own it. Back the F off Julian completely. Get your house in order, and stop using motherhood as a shield for bad behavior. Comment 3. You crossed a hard line. Blocking a 19-year-old from leaving is illegal, controlling, and exactly the kind of behavior that burns bridges permanently. Stop romanticizing Eric's actions as love. That's gaslighting. You wanted a family on your terms and tried to force it. When that failed, you escalated into coercion. Own it. Apologize to Julian brief, no guilt trips, apologize to Rob and Kate, and get real therapy individually and with Eric. Then shut up and stay away until they reach out, if ever. If you keep chasing, you'll lose more than a son. You'll lose your marriage, your kids' stability, and any future chance at repair. Second story. The best friend I've been in love with for most of my life introduced me to his coworkers as his little sister. I 25F have known my best friend 26M for 12 years. I've been secretly in love with him for about half that time. Just a little backstory. We met back in middle school when his family moved into the townhouse next to ours. At the time I was in 7th grade, and he was in 8th. We quickly became friends not long after, and were spending a lot of time together, having basic friendly interactions. Our backyards were connected, so when our parents were asleep, he would sometimes slip out of his patio door and come over to my room, and we would just talk. Around my junior year, his senior year of high school, we were both going through bad breakups at the same time. One of these nights when he came over, he kind of made a joke about how easy it would be for us to date. I agreed, But we kind of laughed it off and didn't bring it up again. Then about 2 weeks later, it finally happened. We did everything but have sex that night. The next day, we both kind of moved on like it never happened. However, things slowly changed after that. This is when I began developing feelings. We both graduated. He moved away as fast as he could. Not far, just a couple towns over. The first couple of years of not being right next door, we barely saw each other, but still texted and occasionally talked on the phone. I figured this was mostly due to the fact he started dating someone at the time. Over the last 3 years, we've been closer than ever, both of us single. We talk on the phone every single day and have not missed a day, even if it's a quick hello and just checking in. He knows I'm afraid of bugs and has come to my place to kill big spiders for me. A couple of those times between 1 and 3 a.m. We frequently buy each other gifts for holidays, birthdays, and often just because. Every year he takes me out for Valentine's Day and my birthday to rather extravagant dinners and an activity he thinks I would enjoy. A few times he has sent flowers to my job, just because, and even surprised me a couple months ago by delivering the flowers to me personally because I was having a bad day. I've taken him on vacation for his birthday, just the two of us. And I've also surprised him at work with various gifts if he was having a bad day. We take care of each other when we're sick, like sleeping over at each other's houses and basically nursing each other back to health. He knows thunderstorms scare me and will often spend the night with me if it's really getting to me. Yes, sleeping in the same bed. He has on multiple occasions said things like, "I wish I could date someone like you," or "I wish I could find someone like me for you." To which I have replied, "Yay, we would be perfect for each other," but we always leave it there. This year, I moved closer to him, about a 3-minute drive. He also works in the area, and I work from home 3 days a week. We both work in an office setting that allows us to talk on the phone all day while we're working. It's basically a part of our routine. He calls me on his way to work, and unless one of us has a meeting, we stay on the phone all day until he gets off. Our coworkers know this about us. He has been out with my coworkers and me for drinks. While I have not met any of his, I've talked to a couple of them on the phone frequently, as sometimes when he's in his office, he will have me on speaker. They know my name, but have never met me in person. I work mornings, and he starts in the afternoon, so when I'm getting off work, he's usually going on his lunch. If I'm working from home, he would come over on his lunch break, and I would make him food. When I'm in the office, I would pick him up something and bring it to him at the office, or just grab him, and we would go out to eat on his lunch. Well, yesterday he was getting off work early, and I was picking him up to go to dinner, and then our town's carnival together. He purposely walked to work this day, because the carnival is near his office, and the parking is horrendous during this time. When I got there, he was still finishing up some work, and I had to go to the bathroom really badly, so I came in to use theirs. He got me and brought me back to his office. While we were walking out, we ran into a couple of his coworkers, and they asked if I was his girlfriend. I said no and thought we would leave it there. He doubled down and said, "This is my little sister." I was floored. He has never referred to me as his sister, at least to my knowledge. I've never told him how I feel about him, but I've hinted around it a little, and our mutual friends have asked us why we aren't just dating before, and he has said he doesn't want to lose me as a friend. Call me crazy, but if anything, my feelings have tripled for him over the last 3 years of him basically treating me like his girlfriend. Now I feel completely stupid, like I read into things too deeply. This morning he called me when he was leaving work. His office occasionally have to work Saturdays when they're busy. He told me his coworkers asked about me, saying they've never seen him with a girl and could have sworn we were dating based on how we were looking at each other. They said they've never seen him look as happy as he looked when we were together. He told him it's just great having someone in his life who completely understands him, and he can be himself around. I'm so confused. I'm not going to tell him how I feel, but knowing he thinks of me as a sister has me very shocked, confused, and just feeling like an idiot. Comments. Comment 1. Gonna give it to you straight. The no-boundary friendship you've been having for the past 3 years, Valentine's dates, flowers, talk every day means no other potential partner will be comfortable with this continuing. You two are actually just dating without the intimacy. Either you have to have the courage to admit your feelings to him, or cut the dates, dinners, and communication a lot so you both can move on. If he doesn't have feelings for you after doing all of this, he's using you and preventing future relationships. Comment 2. Yep, agreed that the space that could be for BFF's romantic partner is currently occupied by OP, and vice versa. A self-respecting person will see through the "we're just friends" veneer and nope out of that. Comment 3. I'm not saying this will get you the outcome you want. But carrying a crush this big can be really painful in its own way and damaging to long-term relationships that you're not seeking out. So besides the obvious downside that an immediate rejection would hurt terribly, what is preventing you from talking to him frankly about your mutual feelings? I don't even think you need to confess undying love. Just, so the other day when you said I was your sister, that was weird, right? Do you really feel that way? And also, what are we exactly doing here? We talk every day. We are in each other's pockets as much as any two people can be. Other people are assuming I'm your girlfriend. What are we doing here? And why is it so hard to talk about? Clarity can be painful, but from the outside, if he's not calling you his sister, so he can get with one of those coworkers without raising suspicions about you, it sounds like he's either one interested, but shy too legit just wants to be friends with you, but is dominating your emotional life so nobody else can get in. His having said, he doesn't want to lose you as a friend is setting alarms off with me. As if he knows what he's doing is wrong. I guess you need to learn if he's where you are, or if he's too selfish to be an actual friend, and encourage you, a young woman in her best years, to get out there and find someone who can give you back the adoration that you are clearly capable of. OP, honestly, I'm really shy, and any time I have expressed my feelings to guys before, I've been rejected, and I would just hate for that to happen with him. I've done everything short of actually telling him to hint at us dating. He calls me babe and baby girl all the time. When giving me compliments, he'll say things like, "Look at my girl, you're so beautiful." Since we've both been single for so long, I said to him before, like, if we weren't both married or in relationships by 30, we should just marry each other, kind of as a joke. He never directly responded to that, just said that we really would be perfect for each other. I'm a bigger girl, and while he has dated people only a little smaller than me, never anyone my size. He talked to someone who was similar in size to me earlier this year, and honestly, she was kind of perfect. I was a little jealous. I was sure they would date. He stopped talking to her, and his reasoning was he's never dated anyone that big and just couldn't see how it would work sexually. At the time, this made me feel bad not only for her, but also for myself, given my feelings. And given him calling me his sister, I kind of feel like he's been using me as a stand-in girlfriend, while he's single, as he really is a super romantic guy. Comment 4. OP, it sounds like you know he is using you. Why don't you think you deserve someone who actually loves and appreciates you? Update. Literally 2 people asked for an update, so here I am lol. I feel like the title is all the recap needed, but real quick. I've been secretly in love with my best friend for a few years, and we definitely crossed the boundaries of a normal friendship. But then he introduced me as his sister to his coworkers. Well, as a lot of the comments stated, he's not attracted to me. The opportunity finally arose for me to bring it up casually. We were talking about relationships, and he was saying how he hasn't had much luck finding anyone. Things just haven't worked out for various reasons. Despite a lot of the comments, none of those reasons have been for how close we are. So as he's telling me about the latest girl he stopped talking to, she was hardly ever responding to text calls for anyone interested in the reason. I said, well, it sounds like you need to change up from what you usually go for. I basically told him he needs someone like me in our relationship. He agreed. He literally said, word for word, "Yeah, you're right. If you were someone else, we would definitely be together." This was my first opportunity to bring it up, but I chickened out. Then we were both talking about how we haven't had sex in a while, as we've both been single, and I said, yeah, we should help each other out. He kind of laughed awkwardly, and I should have taken that as the sign, but I was in it now. I had the courage to finally ask, why have we never dated? He admitted that he used to have feelings for me in high school, but didn't think I would leave my ex. The ex he was referring to was the guy I was with before we had our one night that we don't talk about. I asked him why he thought that when I was literally with him afterwards, and then we never spoke of it. He said it just didn't seem like I was over him at the time. So naturally, he asked what about after when he realized I didn't want him back. He said he had already started thinking of me differently, and now sees me as his sister. He says he couldn't go back on that now. It's too weird. It would really be like dating his sister. I didn't really push the conversation after this. I just let it end. I actually feel like he lied, which is a lot because I've never felt that way before. I really think he was never attracted in the first place. And maybe that night was a rebound situation, and he didn't want to hurt my feelings. Either way, I know the truth now, and I'm moving on. A lot of people said I was letting these feelings hold me back from relationships, and genuinely I wasn't. I've dated, and things have ended for various reasons, also none of those reasons being because of my relationship with him. I actually found out the reason none of his exes had an issue is because he's been telling them I'm his sister this whole time. So yeah, safe to say that's never happening. I still feel utterly stupid and delusional for ever thinking it was anything romantic. But lesson learned, I guess. This isn't going to end our friendship. But I will definitely be setting more boundaries, starting with no more sleepovers. Comments. Comment 1. I'm sorry that happened. But at least now you know for sure. No more doing wife-y activities for your brother, lol. You know where you both stand. The uncertainty is over, and you're free. Comment 2. Yeah, exactly. Sometimes the clarity hurts. But at least it gives peace of mind. Comment 3. Wow, so all this time he's been getting his emotional needs from you and sexual needs from other girls, and still wonders why he can't find a girl he could emotionally connect with. Could it be he's giving 20 to 30% of himself to them and the rest to you? He really is selfish and self-centered. And as long as you communicate every day and keep this bond, you'll never meet anyone who will match what you have. You yourself have to give 100% of yourself to someone for them to give that back. I'm glad you have the clarity you need to move on. But I don't like some of his comments to you at all. Comment 4. She honestly should have confessed much earlier, instead of waiting 6 years to confess she had a crush on him. Also, what do you mean by emotional needs? Just because you're emotionally close with someone doesn't mean you're in a relationship with them. It sounds like OP was gaslighting herself into thinking there was something special in the relationship, and she was too scared of actually being rejected. So she never actually confirmed if the feeling was mutual. Comment 5. Nobody normal FS their sister. Comment 6. Selfish people do. They have their sister or brother at their beck and call for emotional and sexual needs. But they give that label so their sister brother stays at that distance while they can still date other people. Giving that label makes the other party feel closer than normal, so it also leads them on. Yet they won't be able to let go because they're such best friends. If this dude isn't selfish, then he will understand when OP stops all sexual interactions and puts some space in between them. Thank you for watching the video. If you are interested in listening to these kinds of stories, we've got more in store for you. Simply subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and share it with your friends.